baked goods that you make with your friends and family can enrich your own community. This webinar is going to be broken down into 5 parts. The first 4 parts will take about 15 minutes. First, we want to give you the history behind King Arthur Flour, America's oldest flour company, and why our Bake for Good program is perfect for Mom's Meat ambassadors. Second, we're going to review the items you received in your kit. Third, we're going to inspire you with ideas for your gathering. Fourth, we're going to relieve any baking anxiety by passing on our favorite baking tips. And finally, we're going to take the time to answer your questions. Way back in 1790, when George Washington was serving as our nation's first president, King Arthur Flour was founded. That's a long time ago, 225 years ago to be exact. America's oldest flour company was started in Boston by a gentleman named Henry Wood, who imported flour from Europe. Over the next 2 decades, 2 other partners, Sands and Taylor, joined the company. Our logo and name actually has a dramatic story. In 1896, the company was about to introduce a new, high-quality, American-grown flour to the market. Around the same time, George Wood attended a theatrical performance of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Wood went back to his fellow partners, Sands and Taylor, and told them that he witnessed the same values in the King Arthur legend as he saw in their new exceptional flour: purity, loyalty, honesty, superior strength, and a dedication to a higher purpose. Today, our company still holds onto those values, and even our buildings are named after places in the story. We're talking to you from Excalibur, your package came from Avalon, and our store is located in Camelot. Those buildings I just mentioned are actually located in Norwich, Vermont. Owners Frank and Brenna Sands moved the company from Boston to Vermont in 1984. King Arthur Flour quickly went from just selling flour to inspiring bakers across the country by providing inspiration and baking knowledge. Over the next several years, our mail order catalog was created. We published a James Beard award-winning cookbook and opened our baker's store. Our headquarters is a baker's dream. We have a bustling bakery cafe, a store with close to 4,000 items, and a baking education center that offers a variety of classes for children, home bakers, and professionals. We hope you'll come visit us in Norwich, Vermont one day. So remember how I mentioned our original owners wanted a company that was driven by a higher purpose? We're still doing that. In 1994, Frank and Brenna Sands, who were 5th-generation owners of King Arthur Flour, were looking forward to their retirement and wanted to provide a stable future for the company. Instead of selling to the highest bidder, they decided to sell the company to their employees. In 2004, we became 100% employee-owned. Today, we have just over 300 employee owners. We are also a founding and certified beneficial corporation. That distinction may not be familiar to you, but it means we adhere to a triple bottom line. Beyond our commitment to our shareholders, we also support the environment and community. This project with Mom's Meat is part of our Bake for Good program, just one way we give back to the community. This program is about using baked goods to help those who are hungry. I'm going to have Amy tell you more about our Bake for Good program.
Thank you, Katie. Very simply, we believe that sharing your baking skills and knowledge can help others. We have worked with bloggers, veterans organizations, and others to teach them how to bake. Some of their projects have included providing dinners for the homeless in their communities. Last holiday season, we opened our Baking Education Center up to the community and taught them how to bake pies. The pies that were made were donated to a local organization that provides food and temporary housing to families. We also have a great program that goes to schools. Our Bake for Good Kids programs travel across the country, visiting schools and teaching 4th to 7th grade students how to bake bread from scratch. The kids take ingredients home and bake 2 loaves of bread, one they keep and one that comes back to school and is donated to a food bank. And here's the great thing, moms, this program is free to your school. I love my job as an instructor for this program. I see every day how baking bread not only teaches kids math and science, but also creativity. And most important, the children learn the power of giving to those in need. As a mom, I know how important it is to teach our children how to be kind and generous. I also know how hard it is to keep them entertained. This Mom's Meat program will give you the tools and inspiration to lead by example and show your children that small acts can go a long way and be fun in the process. If you want to learn more about the Bake for Good Kids program, please go to our website at kingarthurflower.com/learnbakeshare. We would love to come and visit schools in your area. All right, I don't know about you, Katie, but I'm ready to move on to the fun stuff. Let's take a look at the King Arthur Flower goodies that you have either received or should receive very soon. For you, the Mom Ambassador, you will have a 2-pound bag of white whole wheat flour that you can use to bake goodies for your gathering, a recipe booklet that's full of easy and yummy recipes, and $20 worth of gift cards to use online or at our store. To share with your mom friends, there'll be 20 coupons, one for each mom to get a free 5-pound bag of King Arthur all-purpose or white whole wheat flour. There are 20 dough scrapers, one for each mom coming to your gathering. This tool can do it all. It can mix ingredients, clean out your bowl, level off your flour, or scrape the ice off your windshield. Once you try it, you won't know how you baked without it. We're also providing samples of some of the creative materials that you will be able to download and print yourself. These include stickers to put on the packages of your baked goods, and because we encourage you to bake with your children, there is a certificate of achievement for you to acknowledge all the hard work done by your young assistant bakers. And here's a tip. The back of the welcome letter also includes a helpful checklist that gives you ideas and suggestions on how to prepare for your gathering with your friends. All right, so our King Arthur flour is available in all 50 states and at all major grocery stores, as well as Walmart and Target. If you're having trouble locating our products, use our store locator online at kingarthurflower.com/where-to-buy. Just click on the product you're looking for and enter your zip code, and you'll get a handy list of all nearby stores. So let's take a look at the recipe book we sent you. You'll find a nice array of recipes for you to try out. The chocolate chip cookies are fabulous and happen to be our 2015 Recipe of the Year and the official cookie of our Bake Truck, which travels around the country promoting the Bake for Good message. Many of these recipes are 50% whole grain or more and an excellent place to use white whole wheat flour. So that white whole wheat flour, you might be asking, is it white flour? Is it whole grain? Well, actually, it's both. That small bag of white whole wheat flour you received is not the same as the traditional whole wheat that you may have been using for years, but it is still 100% whole grain and full of fiber and nutrition. Traditional whole wheat is made from red hard wheat. This flour is made from white hard wheat, which has less of a pigment called phenolic acid. This pigment is what gives traditional whole wheat its darker color and stronger flavor. With less of this pigment, white whole wheat has a milder flavor and lighter color, but both traditional and white whole wheat flours are whole grain. Just like red and white roses are different, in the end, they're both still roses. And here's a mom's tip for you. I guarantee that you can sneak this flour into your baked goods more easily than you can sneak veggies into your homemade chicken nuggets. Your picky eater will never know the difference. And here's another baking tip. All whole grain flours should be stored in the freezer in an airtight container. The germ of the whole grain has a small amount of fat in it that will spoil if it's left in the cupboard or exposed to high heat for many months. All right, now you may have some tried and true recipes that you love, but if you're looking for more recipes, all you need to do is go to our website, which has over 2,500 free ones. You will also find baking tips, videos, blog posts, and much more. We love baking and teaching others how to bake. So here are a few baking tips we'd like to share with you. Our free Baker's Hotline, which we'll explain more later, receives thousands of calls each year with all kinds of questions about baking. Two of the most common questions we get are about measuring flour and substituting whole wheat flour into a recipe that calls for all-purpose. Measuring flour correctly is an important thing you can do to help ensure the success of your baking. But rather than my trying to explain, here is a really simple video about measuring flour that will do a much better job. Great, I hope that was helpful. Now on to substituting whole wheat for all-purpose flour in your recipe. If you're substituting white whole wheat in a recipe for the first time, we recommend starting by substituting it for only half of the all-purpose flour. The flavor is so mild, people often don't even notice that you're sneaking whole grains right in. But because whole grains absorb more liquid, you may need to add up to 1 tablespoon of extra liquid for every cup of white whole wheat flour you use. You can use water, but try using orange juice instead. Orange juice helps balance the potential bitterness of whole wheat flour and makes it more kid-friendly. Mix your batter or dough so that it comes together and then allow it to rest for 20 or 30 minutes before kneading, scooping, or pouring. This rest allows the germ and bran of the whole grain flour to absorb the extra liquid and to soften, giving you a more pleasant and high-rising and fluffier baked good. Remember to store your whole wheat flour in the freezer. This will extend the shelf life and prevent it from going rancid, all while preserving the nutritional benefits of the natural oils. So let's say you're looking for more baking tips or advice. We have all made mistakes in the kitchen and wondered what went wrong. We want you to feel confident in the kitchen and know about our free Baker's Hotline. Available 7 days a week, you can talk to a professional baker here in Vermont, either by phone, email, or chat. They will walk you through any baking question and help you become a baking rock star. This is by far one of my favorite King Arthur resources. All right, let's take some time to talk about your gathering. You can set it up any way you like, but the most important thing to remember is that you're going to be baking for a hunger relief organization. Here are some ideas of what your gathering might look like. Look over the recipe booklet or head online to kingarthurflour.com and to select your favorite recipes. Try some out and have the samples for your friends to enjoy at your gathering. You can encourage your friends to bring their own recipes to the gathering too. Tell them what you learned about King Arthur flour and why you are baking for good. Decide together what you'd like to bake and whether you'd like to do it in one big group or on your own. Because we think that your kids will get a kick out of sifting, stirring, and tasting yummy treats, they want to make sure that they're okay to share, why not have your mom friends go home and bake with their kids? Then figure out if you're going to give the baked goods to a food shelf or if you're going to host a bake sale and give the money to a hunger relief organization. I know in my community there are a number of religious organizations who regularly offer free meals to the homeless and those in transition. Your baked goods could be part of that meal. And here's a tip. Talk to that organization in advance. Some may not take goods baked in the home, but they may have a kitchen you could use. They may even have suggestions of baked goods that they really need. Another great way you could go is to have a bake sale. And our free, always available bake sale kit can be downloaded at kingarthurflour.com bake sale. Inside, you will find a lot of helpful information and more creative materials. You can donate the proceeds of your sale to a local organization that helps feeds the hungry, or you could donate to a national one, such as No Kid Hungry.
Thanks, Amy. You did a great job. It's Katie again. Baking for good doesn't have to be a one-time deal. We know that you can help us get the word out and inspire others across the country just by sharing your amazing baked goods and stories. Get on social media and show us your pictures. Let us know what you're doing and who you're sharing with. We would love to see what you're doing. Always be sure to tag your posts with the 2 hashtags, MomsMeet and Bake for Good. We are going to be randomly selecting posts and sending more fabulous goodies from King Arthur Flour to our Moms Meet ambassadors. Okay, moms, you are officially a part of King Arthur's Roundtable and have been knighted as Bake for Good ambassadors. Use the knowledge you've learned today to teach your friends and their children how they can bake for good. We're ready to answer your questions. Any additional ones after this webinar can be sent to momsmeet@kingarthurflour.com.
All right, well, thanks so much, Katie and Amy. That was such a great presentation. We have a lot of great questions coming in. So the first question we have is from a mom ambassador wondering, what is the best way to store flour?
That's a great question, and we touched upon it a bit. So your all-purpose flour can be stored in an airtight container, a plastic bag in your cupboard or pantry, and it's going to be just fine. But your whole grain flour, so any of your whole wheat flours, you really want to store them in the freezer. So the little bit of the germ of that wheat berry has a little bit of fat in it, And if that flower is left out in your on your counter in your pantry for a long time, that fat will go rancid and go bad. So you actually want to smell your whole wheat flour, and it should not have a strong odor at all. It should almost smell like nothing. And that's how you know that your flour is still fresh. So keep your whole grain, whole wheat flour in the freezer.
Okay, great. And we have a couple mom ambassadors asking, what is the shelf life once you open the flour?
Is it for the whole grain flour? For the whole wheat flour, 6 months.
Okay.
But all-purpose flour will last quite a long time.
Okay. All right, great. We have a lot of moms excited about the Bake for Good movement, and we have a mom ambassador wondering what inspired your company to start that movement.
Great. So this is Katie. Our Bake for Good movement comes from the fact that, we're a very engaging community. We like to help support folks, and we have our Bake for Good program. Emphasis is to help with hunger relief across the United States. As a beneficial corporation, we have a triple bottom line where we give back to not only our shareholders, but also to our community and our environment. And the Bake for Good program is just one way we give back to the community. We have been employee owned since 2004, and we all have a say in what we want to give back to our company. And Bake for Good is just one of those endeavors.
Okay, great. We have a few mom ambassadors wondering if you sell other products other than flour and what those are.
Yes, we do. So we actually sell over 4,000 baking ingredients and tools online at kingarthurflour.com or through our baker's catalog. In grocery stores across the country, you'll find our flour and our mixes, including gluten-free.
Okay, great. We have a mom ambassador who has a preschooler who she wants to get into baking, and she's wondering what tasks are age appropriate for that preschooler. What sort of, tasks can she give them in the kitchen that they can handle?
Sure. That's a great question, and getting kids involved in baking is a fabulous thing to do. I think with really young kids, you might measure out the ingredients, but they're going to really enjoy pouring them into the bowl. They're going to love to mix those ingredients with the spoon. They might like scooping out those cookies onto the cookie sheet, and they also are not too young to help you knead that bread dough. And then as they get older and their reading skills develop, having them learn to follow a recipe and doing that reading comprehension and sequencing is fabulous. And then for our Bake for Good Kids program, for example, we teach 4th to 7th graders with the belief that they can pretty much go home and follow the recipe on their own. So I would say by 3rd or 4th grade, they should be able to bake a whole recipe on their own, but always with a parent home.
And also, just because I like to emphasize, they make really good taste testers.
Yes.
They're going to be, your children are going to be the most honest taste testers out there and tell you if they like it or not.
Good tip there. All right, we have a question from a mom ambassador wondering if you could tell us more about the Bake Truck. Just, what does it do? Where exactly does it go? Is it a nationwide tour, or how does it work?
Sure. So our Bake Truck was launched last year in 2014, and we travel coast to coast all across the country. What we do is we go to different communities and we hand out our 2015 Recipe of the Year, our chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, and we solicit donations. We will match all of those donations, and then we will give it to a local hunger relief organization in that community. We have gone on several different stops. We've raised thousands of dollars. We're making our way through mid-Atlantic America right now and making our way back up to New England, but we're all across the country, and I encourage you to go to our website, kingarthurflour /Bake for Good, and then you're going to see a little button that says Tour, and it will have our Bake Truck, and you can find out where we're going into your community. That page will also give you some ideas of what schools we're visiting, what fairs we're hosting, and any other volunteer things that we're doing, like with veterans organizations.
Okay, great. I know you guys had gone over before about the recipes you can find on your website, and we have a mom ambassador wondering if she can submit recipes of her own into that database.
No, unfortunately, we don't have anyone that can submit recipes directly to kingarthurflour.com, we actually have a whole crew here. We have a test kitchen and professional bakers. They spend, on average, 40 hours testing each recipe before they put it on our website. But one place that they could submit a recipe and maybe some advice is our community page. We have a community page online where bakers all across America can get together and talk to other bakers. They can give tips, what recipes they like, things that they've tried, cookbooks that they might enjoy. So you can go to our community part of our webpage and put your recipe up there.
Okay, great. We have a mom ambassador wondering, as employees of the company, do you guys also participate in the Bake for Good program? And if you do, what are your favorite ways to bake for good?
So I'm Katie again, and I love to bake for good with our veterans. A couple times I've gone and I've taught veterans how to bake bread, and they've made 2 loaves and they've donated it to the local farmers market at the Veterans Administration Hospital. I've also done a Bake for Good program at our local children's hospital. We have some kids who can't leave the hospital, and I like to do with them. I just did 2 weeks ago where I brought in cookies and we frosted them and we iced them, and it was a nice little treat for them. And of course, Amy here, she can explain. She's our Bake for Good kids instructor.
So our Bake for Good Kids program is where we go to schools across the country and teach kids how to bake bread. And all of those kids are going home with ingredients from King Arthur, and they're making the recipe that they were taught that day at home. The recipe makes enough for 2 loaves, so one they're keeping at home to share with their family, and the other is going back to school, and we let each school decide where they're going to be donating that bread. And it might be to a backpack program they have in their school, or it might be to a homeless shelter in their community. We really want them to be in touch in their community and find a great place for them.
And also what's interesting about King Arthur Flour, we get 40 free hours of volunteer time paid every year. So every employee owner, we have 40 hours where we can go out to our community and support a cause that we hold near and dear. I think that's something that's very unique for companies, and definitely our employee owners are using their free volunteer hours to bake for good.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool. We have a mom ambassador, actually a few mom ambassadors, really interested and excited that you guys, go to children's schools and wondering, do they have to apply to get their school in the running for that, or how does the selection of those schools, how does that work?
Great question. So what they can do is to go to the King Arthur Flour website, and if they go to kingarthurflour.com/learn-bake-share, they will end up at the Bake for Good Kids site. And on that site, they're going to find some helpful documents. And I recommend that they download the How to Host manual, and they read it over carefully, and they can share that with their school, the teachers or the principal at their school. And that's going to give them a lot of information about how the program runs, what we need from the school and the things that we provide. And then in that manual, they're going to find an application. And so they can fill out the application and send it to us. And we do everything we can to get to as many schools as possible. We try to, if we can, visit a number of schools in one area. And then we just do the best we can. So once we receive your application, we'll let you know that we have it. And then we'll be in touch with the school to talk to them about the program and see if it's going to be a good fit. So we, with 4 instructors, get to see about 35,000 kids a year. So we really do all we can to get all over.
And this program, this Bake for Good Kids program, has been in existence for over 25 years. We've already reached 250,000 kids, and we've been to 43 states already, including Alaska last year. So we're always looking to get those last 7 states, but we do go back to states that we have previously visited. So it is a program that's been long-lasting and will continue going on for years to come.
Okay, great. Thanks for that information. We have a few moms who are, wanting to get their kids into baking. And Amy, this might be a question for you as the instructor. They're just wondering, do you have any tips for how they can get their kids excited for baking?
I think that's a great question. So I think you could start a couple of ways. And one good way might be for the kids to identify something that they're really interested in making. So if they have a passion for cookies or they want to try bread or something, let the kid be the person who's going to start that idea. Then you can look online at our website for a recipe, and I'm sure for whether it be a cookie or a bread, there's going to have a couple of choices. So you can read through the recipes with the kids and find one that you want to try out. And then I would say as a mom, don't worry about the flour on your counter. Don't worry if they drop something. You just start with them, and they're going to get more comfortable with it. And I can't tell you how proud they're going to be with their baked product, whether that be cookies, breads, or brownies. They're going to feel so good about themselves that they did it. And the more they do it, the better they're going to get at it and feel really comfortable with it. So I would let the child, pick a recipe, pick something that they want to start making, and go from there.
Okay, great. Those are some great tips. We have a comment and a question from a mom ambassador. She's just saying that, King Arthur seems like a great place to work, and she really admires some of your company's practices. And her question is, she wants to know, what are your guys' favorite things about working for King Arthur?
Sure. One of my favorite things about working here is the fact that I get to take baking classes. I actually came up to Vermont to take a baking class, and I was like, wow, everybody's so smiling and so happy. I have to work here. And less than a year later, after taking that baking class, I applied for my job, and here I am. And actually, this Saturday, I'm taking a French macaroon class. So I get the best of both worlds. I get to go across the country to talk about what a great company we're doing, the high quality products that we have, but then I get to take baking classes, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
I would say, this is Amy. I would say I agree with all of that. And I often have to pinch myself the fact that my job is that I get to go to schools and teach kids how to bake. And that King Arthur Flour is offering this to schools for free. That is so, I think, amazing to me. And the fact that we're an employee-owned company means that the company is really looking out for the welfare of the employees. They really care about our being happy and productive and getting all the professional development and other things that we need. So it's just a really positive environment and supportive environment to work in that I really enjoy and feel very grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, at
and
the end of
classes.
Yeah.
And baking classes.
Well, and to all those baking classes and baked goods that are around here, after work today, I'm going to one of our free fitness classes to take Zumba and dance it off some of those calories.
Because when Katie was talking about the test kitchen, after they test it, we test it, which is a really great part of working here. So.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing those experiences.
Danielle, I want to go back just 1 second because I know there were questions in the beginning about how long a flour is good for and lasts. So I just want to remind everyone that on all of our packaging, there's going to be a best by date. So if they're worried about if their flour is too old, if they've had it too long, there should be a best by date on the bag or on the box of the product that they're using that can guide them.
Okay, great. Very helpful. We have another question actually going back to how you talked in detail about storing flour in the freezer. We have a mom ambassador wondering how long can you store it in the freezer for?
Well, hopefully it won't be there very long because you're going to use it up. So I would say about a year. I would say if you haven't used it in about a year, get rid of it, start fresh, find a recipe, and get baking.
And here's a tip, moms. When you take that flour out of your freezer, you don't have to warm it up to room temperature.
Good point.
Sometimes you get those recipes that you want your eggs or your butter to be room temperature. Your flour doesn't need to. You can just take it right out of the freezer and use it right away.
Okay, great tip. We have a mom ambassador she says her 3-year-old loves to help her in the kitchen, therefore creating a lot of mess. So she wants to know, what is the best, most efficient way to clean up flour?
Well, if it's not wet, I would say a vacuum cleaner. Just suck it right up.
And then also, if it's on their little hands, don't ever bring them over to the faucet and to run under water. Just give them some extra flour in their hand and tell them to rub it together. That is going to get a sticky flour off your hands the quickest.
That's true. We often talk, if you have dough on your hands, you don't want to wash your hands with water. You want to wash your hands with flour, and that dry flour is going to take the sticky dough right off.
Oh, great. Those are great tips. We have a mom ambassador wondering, what are the major retailers that you sell at? I know you said they were nationwide, but if you could just maybe list off just a few of the major retailers you sell at.
So we're at Walmart, we're at Target, we're at Kroger, Safeway, Giant, Hannaford's, Whole Foods. We're at all the major grocery stores in all 50 states. So you might not have saw our bag of flour because you weren't looking for it, but I guarantee if you go to our kingarthurflour.com/where to buy, put in what you're looking for with your zip code, you'll find your local stores, and start by looking for our iconic red and white bag of flour, and then you'll see all the different varieties that we have. We have 5 signature flours, our all-purpose, our bread flour, our self-rising flour, and our whole wheat flour, and our white whole wheat flour.
Okay, great. And if for some reason a particular product isn't sold at their local store, my mom ambassador is wondering how she can get it there. Should she talk to the store manager, or what do you normally recommend with that?
Yes, that's the best place to go because the store managers are going to be determining what products get placed into their store. So the best way to go is go up to them and say, hey, I really want this product. And that will be the fastest way to get it to your store.
Okay, great. We have a mom ambassador wondering if you know what the best-selling King Arthur product is, or if you're unsure, what is your favorite King Arthur product?
So our #1 selling product online is our parchment paper because it's amazing. You can put it on your cookie sheets, you can do it for actual cooking, and you can reuse it. It's our #1 seller for online. But of course, our all-purpose flour is our best-selling flour, and our whole wheat flours are actually the #1 whole wheat flour sold in America.
Oh, wow. Great. We have a mom ambassador wondering, when it comes to baking, what is the difference between using whole wheat flour and white whole wheat flour?
So the difference is what part of the brand of the flour is being used. So when you have a
White. So white whole wheat flour versus traditional whole wheat flour, there's actually different plants. So traditional whole wheat, the wheat that you might have been using for years, is made from red hard wheat plant, and the white whole wheat flour is actually just made from a different type of wheat, white whole wheat. But being whole wheat, they are both going to use all 3 parts of the wheat berry, the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. So they are both whole grains. They're actually just different plants. And one analogy we like to use that we used earlier, just the way a white rose and a red rose are different, they're both still roses. So these are both still whole grain, whole wheat flours.
Sorry for my stumble there a little bit earlier. I was getting confused with our whole wheat flour. But just also to add, in the 225 years that King Arthur Flour has been in business, we have never bleached our flour, and we have never added any chemicals. Way back in the day, companies used to always bleach their flours, and some even do, to give it a whiter appearance. That makes it more cost effective for them because they can do it a lot quicker, but we never add any bleach or any other chemicals to any of our flour.
Okay, great. That's great information. Thank you. We have a mom ambassador wondering, what is your most popular recipe?
That's a good question. So we just got a little tip that it's our 100% whole wheat sandwich bread. So that's something you can try with this program, is try your white whole wheat on that 100% whole wheat sandwich bread.
Okay, great. And do you guys have any favorite recipes that you guys make on a regular basis?
So my favorite recipe that I am making right now with my 2 kids are the 100% whole wheat blueberry muffins, and you can find it online. And I love this recipe because it doesn't have a lot of ingredients. It's easy to make. It uses yogurt in it, which I really like. And it is just the best looking, best tasting blueberry muffin I've made. So when you moms are out looking for recipes, definitely try our 100% whole wheat blueberry muffin recipe online. Right now, that is my favorite recipe. And what about you, Katie?
My favorite recipe is our banana bread, which is actually in your recipe booklet. Here at King Arthur, we get free fruit as part of our wellness program, and so we get bananas, and sometimes, they go right before you can eat them. I'm sure we've all had that problem before. And we have this great banana bread recipe that doesn't taste like other banana breads you've had. It's not going to be dry. It's not going to be boring. And then I like to switch it up. So sometimes when I'm making a tropical banana bread, I'll add some lime and some nuts. And sometimes when I'm doing a banana bread in the holidays, I'll add a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg. So it's a very versatile banana bread recipe, and you can adapt it for your taste. And it's right in that red recipe booklet you got. It's also very kid friendly.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing those. We have a few mom ambassadors wondering if you have a newsletter that they can subscribe to.
Yep. We have a newsletter. If you go to kingarthurflower.com, you're going to have to scroll all the way to the bottom, and you put in your email address. We send out great recipes, tips, blogs, and that's also where you're going to get your discounts from. That's the only place you're going to find out where you can get 20% off your next order, free shipping, or any specials we're running on any products or mixes.
Okay, great. And kind of piggybacking on that, we have a mom ambassador wondering what's the best way to stay in touch with King Arthur? Is it through the newsletter? Is it more through social media? What would you best recommend for that?
Social media. We love to see what you guys are posting on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. We actually, that baker's hotline that we talked about that's free that you can call with any baking questions, they are watching social media all day long. So any questions that you might post on social media, they'll be able to answer and help you. But it always makes us feel good because we are a company of bakers. All 300 some of us employee owners, we all love to bake, and sharing the joy of baking is what's part of our mission. And when we can see other people showing us the joy of baking, that really makes us excited. And I know it might sound kind of crazy, but we definitely go in the office, oh my God, look at what this person posted and what they baked. I want to try that. And so you don't know, you might be part of the office water cooler talk being like, Miss So-and-so made this. I want to try it out.
That is absolutely true. Yep.
Great. We have a couple moms who are local to your store, your actual store, and they just want to know more about it. One of them read that there's a cafe attached, and they just want to hear more about what the store is like.
So great. So we, at our location here in Norwich, Vermont, if you remember, it's called Camelot, which is the prime, location in the King Arthur story. And inside of Camelot, we have a bakery and a cafe. It's open 7 days a week, starting at 7:30 in the morning and closes at 6 p.m. We're open most days except for like some major holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas and 4th of July. There we have professional bakers who are baking breads and pastries all day long. We have a store. Everything that you can buy online or in our catalog, you're going to find in our store. And then we also have our Baking Education Center. We have thousands, and that's not an overestimate, of classes every year that we offer for children, adults who are home bakers, and professional bakers. They range in price, but the average class price is around, for hands-on classes, about $65, and it lasts for 3 hours. So I highly recommend, if you want to explore baking some more and maybe even have your kids involved, definitely try out our Baking Education Center. And when it comes around the holidays and different other times, we open up the Baking Education Center for free. So we teach you how to bake, and then those goods that you bake we'll give off to a local hunger relief organization. Just this past year, we did pies for the Haven. We've done some other things for Hunger Free Vermont.
And I would like to add that at the classes of the Baking Education Center at the holidays, we do have the opportunity to open it up and have people share what they've baked with the community. But at the other classes, you're going to go home with some amazing baked goods that you made yourself, and they're going to be delicious.
Yeah. And if you have a group yourself, you can always set up a private class. It usually starts with about 6 people, but you can have a class that's completely catered for your group. You just call up the Baking Education Center, and they'll work with creating a class for you and your friends.
Okay, great. That's great information. Thank you. We have just a few more questions here before we wrap up for the day. A question from a mom ambassador that we just got in was, what type of King Arthur flour is best for homemade pizza crusts?
You can just use our all-purpose flour. That will give you a nice texture. It'll be crunchy, but still soft enough to enjoy. I would start with our all-purpose flour.
Okay, great. And we have a question from a mom ambassador wondering, what are some good starting recipes for kids that are just breaking into baking? What are some good starter ones for them?
Well, I would definitely look at some of the recipes in the booklet that we gave you. I think some of those recipes are good. The bread recipe that you're going to find in there is actually the recipe that we teach at our Bake for Good Kids program. And the banana bread recipe that's in there is one that we also give out to the kids so that when they're done making their bread and they have some flour left over, the banana bread is a recipe that we recommend that they make. So I think you can start with those recipes, and if you're looking online, you just might want to look for things that don't have a ton of ingredients. But I think you can really start anywhere, just anywhere your stomach is leading you to what you want to eat and enjoy.
And one thing that I would do before you bake with your children, and I say this to anybody, always read your recipe twice before you start baking. That way you can know exactly the steps you're going to do. And then we also like to tell people to ease some anxiety and some stress, have all of your ingredients pre-measured and out on the counter before you actually start attempting that recipe. That way you know you have everything that you possibly need.
Those are great tips, Katie. I would definitely support that.
Great, very helpful. Well, thank you so much, Katie and Amy. That was such a great presentation, and thanks for answering everyone's questions. Do you guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Of course. We just want to say thank you, moms, for taking the time to join us on our webinar and all your great questions. We look forward to seeing your posts from you and your friends. We want to remind you, just make sure you tag those posts with the hashtags Moms Meet and Bake for Good. We hope you have fun with this project, and we wish you happy baking.
All right, great. Well, everyone attending, thanks again for your time, and to the mom ambassadors who are sampling King Arthur flour, we're really looking forward to your feedback and seeing your Bake for Good posts. We're going to go ahead and log off now. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.